Welcome to another episode of our 76 Capital Leadership series. My name is Wayne Kimmel, managing partner of 76 Capital, and really thrilled to be here to bring another one of our incredible guests for our 76 Capital Leadership series. Today's guest, his name is Jordan Fliegel. He is the author of CoachUp, a great book we're going to talk about, as well as currently the managing director of TechStars Sports Accelerator. He also has done a number of other really incredible entrepreneurial things in and around the sports industry. And he also was a professional basketball player. So he's going to talk about all the different things that he's done in his career. Really excited to have Jordan on our show. And as many of you know, at 76 Capital, we're all about working with smart and nice people that are incredibly passionate about building incredible things within the sports industry. That's what we're all about. So if you're one of those people, please reach out to us. Reach out to us on any of our social networks, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, or subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll find all of our 76 Capital Leadership Series shows that we've been doing on our 76 Capital YouTube channel. It's been amazing doing all of this, and today's guest is a really special one, and I'm thrilled to bring on Jordan Fliegel, the managing director of TechStars. Jordan,
Wayne,
nice to have you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to our 76 Capital Leadership Series, and it's great to continue to bring on more and more leaders within the sports industry, and you're a real special one. So again, thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me. I try to watch almost all the episodes. I love the most recent one with Reggie Love. So hopefully I'll do you justice on this.
Well, you certainly are someone that we've wanted to talk with. I mean, I really appreciate you, sending your book to me at the beginning of this whole crisis, and I make sure you'll get a copy of mine as well. And I really appreciate this. I've really enjoyed reading it. Want to get into that. But one of the things that we do on our 76 Capital Leadership Series is talk with our guests about their journey, their path to where they are today. I mean, right now, as managing director at TechStars Sports Accelerator, you're right there in the middle of all the new things that are coming down the pike in the sports tech world. But prior to all of this, you've done a lot of things. So I'd love to hear your story, where you grew up, and we'll get up to high school, and then we'll go from there.
All right, starting in high school. Okay. Well, I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. I tell people Boston if you're not from Massachusetts, but a lot of people do know it. We have Harvard and MIT in Cambridge. It's just across the river. We're the Brooklyn of Boston, I guess you could say. Those who don't know. But Cambridge has a really proud basketball tradition. I was a basketball player. Patrick Ewing. I went to Patrick Ewing's high school. I was about to say Patrick Ewing went to my high school, which should not be the right way of putting it. And Ramil Robinson, and we've won the most state championships and the most Division I players come out of Cambridge. So I grew up playing basketball in Cambridge, in inner city basketball, which we took very seriously, and it was kind of my dream to play on the high school team. We won the state championship my freshman year. I was not on the team. And then I became a starter sophomore year, and we were terrible because we had lost all of our best players. Anyway, so played high school basketball at Cambridge. And from there, went to a small college, Bowdoin College in Brunswick, Maine, Division III school in the NESCAC League. So I played against Amherst and Williams and Tufts. And good basketball, good athletics. Was really kind of like an Ivy League type of conference. Really good academics. Sports is good, but it's not the focus. It's not why I went there. Ended up being a government and philosophy double major, history minor. Had no idea really what I wanted to do. With a liberal arts degree, so I took the LSAT. I was going to go to law school, and I graduated in 2008, so it was right in the middle of the, recession. And randomly, we had a good year. My senior year, best year in school history, captain team. Yeah, we went pretty far. And there's one agent who said, because you're Jewish, if you're willing to get an Israeli passport, I think I can get you on a team in Israel. You'll be playing as an Israeli citizen. Without going into too many details, something called the Russian rule, not just in Israel, throughout Europe, started in Russia. you have a certain number of locals, that, local citizens or European players, for instance, in Europe that have to be on the court at any time. So in Israel, we had to have 2 Israelis on the court at any time. That meant if I counted as an Israeli, I would be competing against the Israelis who are good players, but not against the Americans in the league who are all sort of ex-NBA guys that, I couldn't probably compete against them. So look at these photos, man. You're spot on. This arc here. Jeez. I wonder how you're doing that.
So who was your coach? Who was your coach there?
What would you say?
Who was the coach?
Guy Goodis. He was a star in Israel from Maccabi Tel Aviv. They had if you drive down the road in Israel, like the main highway, they had image of him, this underwear, tighty whitey's commercial that he did. He was a big deal, legend in Israel. He was our coach. So that was, so my first year I played for Jerusalem, Hapoel Jerusalem, where Mari Stoudemire played the last couple of years. Mari's probably the best player to ever play there. I was probably the worst. So make sure everyone understands that. But yeah, that was one of the few moments that photo where I actually got in the game. So that's cool. I have a lot of photos of me on the bench. But we had a great team. We had 6 former NBA players, and the other 4 Israelis were all in the Israeli national team and me. So it was a really great competition for someone coming from a Division III program to be able to, like I said, I didn't play much, but I practiced, and I had to cover our power forward. And practice was star Omar Sneed, this incredible player, All-American at Memphis. Anyway, great experience as a kid who dreamt of being a pro basketball player. Never thought I'd get there. We played throughout Europe, beat Maccabi Tel Aviv, game once by 15 points. They had Omri Caspi, Carlos Royal, and a bunch of guys. So it was a dream come true for me.
Well, it's pretty amazing, when you think about everything that's happens within the in the basketball world in Israel. On our 76 Capital Leadership Series, we've had Tal Brody. It was really cool to have him from Israel at the very beginning of the pandemic. He was on with us, and really, and he told his whole story. Growing up in Jersey and then going over and being a NBA draft pick and then going to Israel. I mean, pretty incredible what he did. And and then one of the things that we talked about, and I'd love to ask you this, is many people have never been to, a lot of people that at least that I know are friends with that had never been to a Israeli a basketball game in Israel. And the way that I describe it is it's a little bit like going to a college basketball game and a European soccer match at the same time. Right. That's how I describe it. What do you think about that?
Oh man, I couldn't believe the energy. It was impossible to beat us in our gym, especially Jerusalem. They built a new arena, but back then we only had 5,000 seats, and it was sold out. Beyond sold out, we half the crowd was shirtless, jumping up and down. The other half was chanting and praying. I'm exaggerating a bit, but there was fires going in the upper balconies, drums, smoke grenades being. It felt like we were going to war almost. Flags are flying. I mean, I've never jumped. I didn't play in the games, but in the warm-up lines, I could jump out of the gym, just from the energy of the crowd. And it was a really tough place to play for other teams coming. We definitely had it. We were much better at home than we were on the road. Yeah.
It's an unbelievable atmosphere. And I tell people that if they have the opportunity to go to Israel and you'd see all the sights and you do all the tours, but go to a game, go to a basketball game and see what it's like. And luckily I was there. One of the games that I went to was with my 2 kids, and my son's pretty conversant in Hebrew, and he was able to make sure that we could get to where we needed to get to. And these people, we got in right when the game was starting. People were already going crazy, and we need to get to our seats. And I'm like, what do we? I'm like saying, excuse me. He's like, no, Dad, I got it.
Oh, man, it's such an interesting country, and and I would definitely agree with your advice to go catch a game, because when I was playing, there was a war going on at the time, the second half of the season, which made it really interesting. Some teams didn't want to fly in. Some games were canceled. We had crazy security when we would go on the road in Europe for games, and anyway. It was a great year, and then from there I went to a second division team in Israel. I ended up doing an MBA in Israel Tel Aviv University while playing basketball in the second division at night with no European travel and kind of less. Everyone sort of had another job, was in school, or was in the army or something. So that was my second year. It was a really fun year in Tel Aviv. But I was only in Israel for 2 years, played 2 years, got an MBA there, learned about entrepreneurship there. It's a startup nation, very entrepreneurial. place, sort of what lit the fire in me to do a startup, and came back to the US and ultimately started my first company. So, but yeah, I love Israel, and I try to go as much as I can.
That's awesome. Well, we're here with Jordan Fliegel, the managing director of TechStars Sports Accelerator on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And so, Jordan, you didn't just finish professional basketball and then go work with TechStars. You had a pretty amazing entrepreneurial career. Tell us what you did next and how that happened.
So I came back. I broke my foot at the end of the second year, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because otherwise, I'd probably still be in Israel, limping around trying to play basketball in the fourth division. It's just such a great experience. Came back. I just finished business school. I took a job working at an online marketplace. I was the fourth of four people at the startup. So I was basically doing everything that the other three people didn't want to do. I had no real skills, which was also a great advantage I had. I didn't know how to code. I didn't know how to design. I wasn't going to be the accountant. I wasn't going to be the growth hacker. I really felt like I couldn't do any of the roles in a startup that you get paid a bunch of money in equity to do at any sort of venture-backed startup. It was a blessing because it kind of left me the opportunity to basically say, all right, I'm going to start my own company. And I'm going to hire all these amazing people to do those functions. And so if I can't do any of these other roles, well, then I'll just have to be the founder and the CEO. And I'll just start the thing and pull all these people together. And that felt a lot like being on a basketball team, being on a team and trying to play with other great players. You just want to play with the best players and put them in positions to succeed and do your role. And so really playing basketball was probably and coaching basketball, I coached kids on the side, was kind of the real life experience that I had at that point. And were way more valuable than the NBA and sort of starting my first company. But long story short, I worked this marketplace in a totally different industry. And I had a big idea. I thought that I had a coach who helped me to improve from being a bad high school player to being a starter to being a bad Division III player to a good Division III player to being ultimately a bad professional player. But that journey involved a lot of improvements in my game. I didn't get any taller or more athletic along the way. So, I'd been coaching kids on the side while I was in the gym, $50 an hour, $100 an hour. And that was something I was really passionate about doing. And it was easy for me. I was in the gym anyway. But I realized there's a lot of pain and friction in doing that. If you're a former college professional player, and there's millions of them, you have a real skill that you earned, right? That you've learned over your career. Regardless how far you get, there's very few athletes who will make so much money that they just retire and they don't do something else afterwards. Even the vast majority of pro athletes, right? They want to go on and they have to do something else, and they would love to stay involved with their sport and give back to kids if they could. There wasn't an easy way to do that. If you want to coach kids part-time, full-time, to create your own website, you got to market your service, you post flyers, you got to handle payment processing, you got to figure out insurance and scheduling, you got to build your brand, right? And what you really want to do is just have the kids show up and coach them. You don't want to do all that sort of business stuff, nor is it very efficient for you to do it running a small business. So my first idea was like, there's got to be an easier way to coach kids than this path that I've gone through to do it part-time. And if money were no issue, this is the thing that I would get the most fulfillment in life from, because my coach impacted me so much, not just as a player, but as a person. I reached through basketball, maybe want to be a better student, maybe learn about applying myself. All of that came from basketball and from having a coach who believed in me and worked with me. And by the way, this is about every pro athlete. And I'll get Steph Curry later as the face of the company. This is how you improve. You improve through one-on-one and small group trainings. What they're all doing in the offseason. And it's the biggest kept secret in sports in America. And this is how you get better. And so I had the idea, let's create a marketplace for all these former, pro and college athletes to be able to market themselves, have a website, and be able to make it very easy for them to coach the 40 million plus kids in the United States across all sports. The right coach for my kid is not necessarily the right coach for your kid, because we play different positions, we live in different places, different needs. So really a marketplace solution, like an Airbnb kind of solution where you can sort and filter and see reviews, and find the right coach for you, and then make the whole process of scheduling and paying for the sessions and getting feedback out of the sessions as easy as possible. That was the idea, and so CoachUp was born. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew it would be impactful if I could build this thing to kind of scale the coaching I was doing with kids. And today we have over 15,000 coaches, thousands of kids, every day, thousands of sessions every day now across the country. So anyway, that was my first business. CoachUp. We went out to raise just under 15 million in venture capital, mostly Boston-based VCs. I remain chairman of the board of the company. We haven't sold it yet. I was CEO for the first 4 years, and that's probably one of the things I'm most proud of building, because I went into it knowing absolutely nothing. I could talk about that for a long time, but really begged for the first $50,000 in funding, and everything was hard, and everything was first time for me. I'll pause there. That's a great photo you got there, Wayne. So that's Cambridge, the court where I grew up playing. I'm in that photo somewhere, in the back. I've got a bunch of my former teammates, a bunch of CoachUp coaches in there, and we did a day, CoachUp Cares Day, where we everyone volunteered their time to coach up youth kids in Cambridge, like I was. That was really cool to combine my my new startup with kind of my personal history growing up and playing in Cambridge. So
that's awesome. It's really great. I mean, look, this is all about not only doing the right thing and building businesses, but it's all about helping others. And it's one of the big messages that we've had on our 76 Capital Leadership Series from so many of the CEOs and leaders that we've talked with, and athletes, really talking about helping others, trying to make this world a better place. And that's what we're all about. And that's one of the big reasons we do this. And we saw that picture. I know James Santor, who's my chief of staff, found that, and he's like, hey, we got to use that. We got to talk to Jordan about that, and some of the things that he's doing, and certainly the things that you talk about in your book and helping others. And I mean, those are things that are just so they're so close to home and so important to us at 76 Capital as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's something I believe in, building and investing in companies. And I think it's probably not really understood in popular culture in the United States. I mean, we certainly have a problem with income inequality. Something like the top 500 American citizens have more wealth than the bottom 2/3 of the entire population, right? Which is out of whack. But at the same time, if you help a lot of people solve problems or add joy to their lives at scale, you are creating so much value that and especially with technology and the tools that we have now, and the ability to easily get the word out through social media and et cetera. So you can create a ton of value in the world and capture a lot of that value. So and we're seeing entrepreneurs as a force for good. We see someone who creates a service, whether it's Elon Musk with Tesla or Airbnb or whatever. You create so much value in the world that is certainly playing a part of why we're seeing fabulous wealth being created. And I think capitalism and entrepreneurship sometimes get the dirty word when you see how much money people make when they succeed. But if you're doing it right and you're providing a really great service, you are literally helping thousands, millions of people at scale, and you deserve to be able to extract some of that value. So anyway, that's how I sort of think about entrepreneurship and wealth creation.
Wow, that's a great way to think about it. And so talk about what you're doing at CoachUp, and how did you get Steph Curry involved with you?
Oh man, I met a guy who knew another guy who was the president of Octagon, Steph's agency, and my friend had been chief legal officer at Reebok, sold Reebok to Adidas, and he said, you just got to get together. I got together with the president of Octagon, and we just had a great conversation for hours. And at the time, I was building this marketplace. We just raised some money, and I was thinking about how we could really amplify our story and get it out there. It's one thing for me to say how I went from being a high school player to a Division III player to whatever, playing Israel. It's much more impactful to align with others who could tell that same story authentically and at scale. Stefan's coaches were on our platform. Private coaching is the thing that he credits for getting to where he is in his career. He's someone who obviously incredible skill set, which he's earned through hard work, right? There's a sense that you can be Stefan. There's a sense. It's really hard to try.
Jordan, I'm still trying.
We can all aspire, but he's not Dwight Howard. He's not 6'10" and super strong and jumps out of the gym, right? he looks like a relatively normal guy walking around. It's not doing him justice because he's an incredible athlete, and there's a lot that he can do physically that it's hard to describe. But he worked really hard on his game to develop that skill set through private coaching, right? And just an incredible person. The people around him incredible. He's in California's our top state. Basketball's our top sport. He's in San Francisco's venture capital startups. There's a lot of reasons why he would be incredible for CoachUp. But most importantly is he believed in what we're doing. He's like, yeah, this is what I did. This is what I continue to do. This is what kids should do to get better. And more than that, he wanted to help thousands of kids around the country have a really positive experience in sports, to create a bunch of part-time jobs for assistant college coaches, high school coaches, former college athletes to be able to make money doing something that they love and helping kids. It's a really positive mission that we have at CoachUp. And so it's something that he felt and strongly really believed in. And he has a really strong moral compass and belief system, and the things that he does and things he doesn't do. And he really only wants to associate with things that he believes in. And so it was really a natural partnership for us. And then we got a bit lucky that year after we started working together, he won, his first championship and MVP, and, became, such a popular figure and deservedly so around the world. But he was absolutely the right person for CoachUp. And, we were, I think, a brand and a product that he believed in.
That's awesome. It's great to hear. I mean, it's also, I'm sure for so many entrepreneurs out there, I mean, you can have a guy who knows another guy, and then you can get to where you need to get to. And you talk about relationships and building that and those types of things in your book. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about going out there and making as many contacts as possible, and trying to turn those contacts into relationships, but by doing that, by helping others and doing the right thing. And that's how these things really, truly work. So we have, Jordan Fliegel on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. Excited to have him here. He's the managing director of TechStars Sports Accelerator. He shared with us his startup that he built into a really big company called CoachUp. And, just excited to talk about all the things that you've done. And, after CoachUp, you didn't go right to TechStars. You did another company as well. So what drove you to do the next thing?
Yeah, so also in sports tech, but very different space. Draft.com, what became Draft.com, daily fantasy sports app. So this is very different from helping junior find a coach and get better and make a varsity team or play in college. We were competing directly with FanDuel and DraftKings, daily fantasy sports space. We were third in the space. We had maybe 2% market share. So they're 98%. We had raised something like $6 million, and DraftKings had raised well over $1 billion, and FanDuel like $450 million. So this was actually my great friend, childhood best friend from Little League, Jeremy Levine's startup. He was the founder of a company called Star Street. And he was competing directly with FanDuel and DraftKings. Very hard to do with such limited funding, a small team in that space. And I felt very involved in the business for a long time, even though I officially wasn't. There's Jeremy. Since we were kids, we always played this game where we would draft players. So if we were playing Madden, we would draft players and simulate the season. And we would do so. We would create a draft and say, okay, all players in the Eastern Conference, 6'8" and under. You can only take players 25 years old and under. And you get the first pick, and I get the next two, and he get the next two, and we go like that until we draft the team. And there was no way of deciding who won. So we would ask his dad, who was a lawyer and was biased, I always felt, on Jeremy's side, which team is better, right? There's no way to prove it. We couldn't even simulate a season, which is not a great mechanism for proving which team is better, but better than what we had. And Elliot would just say, oh, this team's better than that. So we've had this game that we're kind of just doing this fun thing, and we continue to do it way too late in life. But it kind of brought us back to our childhood and something we enjoyed. Anyway, long story short, Star Street was kind of running out of options and money. And in a conversation with Jeremy, I said, well, what if we just take what we literally have right now and we just build the thing that we've always wanted? Just build the game that we would play. A daily fantasy sports game that's social. You're doing drafts with your friends. In the classic DFS game that FanDuel and DraftKings have, when you draft a team, I draft a team. We could have exactly the same players. It was heavily weighted towards sharks, people who are basically professionals, who would draft hundreds of lineups and submit them into tournaments. doing weird pairings. Like, it was more important who you played against than who you have on your team. You'd have to pair a quarterback with a wide receiver on the same team, and even the team made no sense. For whatever reason, the players on the one team had a great game, then you'd have a real advantage over other players who made a drafted, a more sensible team, right? So it was much more of a, if you were a casual player, you didn't have much chance in FanDuel draft. We didn't think that was right. We also didn't think it was super fun, and we thought we could come up with a better game. And the hell with it, what else? The business was probably not going anywhere anyway, so let's build the thing we always wanted. We did. We raised a very little amount of money. I joined him as co-CEO. We changed the name to Draft. I moved from Boston to New York. I was sleeping out of the office. There was 10 of us working around the clock. We spent all the money that we had left to get this game built, and then going into football season to get a little bit of traction. And it hit. It's an amazing moment in tech when you have a product that works and that hits. User acquisition very efficient, retention very strong. We didn't have a lot of data, but the data we have was compelling. And we went out to raise a $10 million Series A round. At the same time, we started talking to strategics. And I'll kind of skip through the story, come back to later. We ended up selling it for $48 million to Paddy Power Betfair, which is a publicly traded gaming leader. Since we then introduced FanDuel to them, our competitor, a year later. We scaled up the team, about 35 people. They're spending more and more on marketing, really grew the business. Sports betting became decriminalized in the United States. So we had fortunate timing in that, just after our deal. And so it was an arms race for all the leading gaming companies to acquire fantasy sports properties in the U.S. to gain an advantage in that market. So you don't have to go out and acquire a ton of potential players. You'd already have a built-in customer base. And so all of a sudden, DraftKings, FanDuel, and us, we had a lot more value than we did a couple years earlier. We would have had sports betting kind of not changed. And so anyway, we ended up buying FanDuel, the larger competitor. We merged the businesses together. It's called FanDuel Group now in the U.S., which is doing extremely well. Jeremy and I had an earnout, and we got out of it early in 2019. But anyway, that was a cool ride, and learned a lot. And I think the best part of it was just working with a best friend and building a product that we really believed in. Man, these photos are amazing. That was we won every Daily Fantasy Sports award, DFS award, best product, draft room, etc., which we were really proud of because we had a tiny team compared to FanDuel and DraftKings and competitive, and we had like a way better. I could just say this, and no, I'm sure we have FanDuel draft people watching, but we had the best product in space. Like, you can admit it, guys. we had a great product. We had an incredible team, like the best engineering team I've been around. I don't take a lot of credit for this. Jeremy and the team deserve all the credit for what we built. But we sold the company. We celebrated. That was a really fun couple years. And again, to do it with basically my brother, my best friend since we were little kids, and a great group of people was really a rewarding experience.
That's such a great story. What's Jeremy doing now?
You got to get him on the show next. He's starting a new company. I don't want to steal his thunder.
All right.
But he when we got out of draft, ultimately, what became FanDuel Group, we had one-way tickets. We were going to go to Asia, to Bali, one-way flight, and just kind of do nothing for a while and get bored. And long story short, he ended up going, and I took a one-way flight to Indianapolis to launch TechStars Sports Accelerator. So I jumped right from draft into TechStars, didn't take any time off at all. He took some time, traveled, and came back with a ton of energy and rearing to go and start another company. So that's what he's focused on now.
That's great. I know one of the things that you've talked about, Jordan, in I saw on social media, and it was, unfortunately earlier this year, it's been a heck of a 2020. Things kind of started going the wrong direction with the passing of David Stern. And, David was, I got the incredible opportunity of interviewing David in one of his, if not his last public appearances before he passed at our conference. And, he was someone that we, got a chance to do a number of things with, and was just such an incredible person. I know you tweeted about some things about him and had your own relationship with him. Love to hear that. Yeah,
man. I get emotional when I think about David. He was incredible mentor, incredible person. And he really, as you know, Wayne, kind of the last several years, made it kind of his personal mission to give back by investing and advising the next generation of basically sports tech founders, creating the future in sports. And Draft brought me to New York City. We almost did a deal with Graycroft, where David was helping out the venture fund. That's how I originally got to know him. Became friends, a number of lunches together. It's just a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. It's such an incredible person, and genuine relationships with founders. You'd be amazed that, like, you get a call as an unknown number. Because of David, I started picking up unknown numbers. The unknown number call, and then his assistant would say, David Stern, and every time that happened, I'd get a chill, like, oh my God, his first former basketball player, and he genuinely cared, and he remembered everything. He was so sharp right up to the end. It's an incredible loss for our whole community. Anyway, incredible person.
Yeah, we were very fortunate to have had him in our lives. And then really all the things that he's touched, not only just in basketball, but in sports in general, how he really was the dean of all commissioners, and so many of them really look up to him now and look at all the things that he did and sort of the tough things that he's had to tackle, and how they're now handling some of the situations that many of these commissioners are in today. A lot of them go back to the David Stern playbook, and we were all very fortunate to have been involved with him. But talking about books, I guess before Draft is when this came out? Is that?
Yeah.
You wrote this book about called CoachUp, and you had Shane Battier wrote your foreword. I'd love to hear how that came about. But it's really exciting having Jordan Fliegel, the author of CoachUp, managing director of TechStars, founder and chairman of CoachUp, former co-CEO of Draft, on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And, so Jordan, what made you and really drove you to write this book in the first place?
Yeah, I had a message that I wanted to force myself to really document and to lean into. And it was something that I started learning from my experience coaching kids and from being coached. And something I just felt was lacking as I got more and more into the startup world with CoachUp, and also investing and advising some other startups. I had a sense that if you haven't played sports and you're operating in the realm of people in a business setting, there's just this foundational lack of awareness and kind of understanding about how to work with people that I just kind of became aware of as I went through it. And maybe I'm super generalizing, but it would almost be like if I knew someone played team sports, I'd be like, that person gets it. And I feel comfortable with that person being a part of the team. And I think this parallels also to Army, but people who haven't had that kind of experience where you really rely on each other, and sometimes you're the star and sometimes you're the bench player, and sometimes your roles change, but you have this competition, but also need to work together and to try to get the most out of each other. If you haven't been through that, I think there's just a lot of stuff that seems kind of maybe natural to athletes that other people just don't have. And so I wanted to try to document really what that was. And we interviewed a ton of CoachUp coaches who were working with kids and got all of their sentiments on it and compiled it all together and really kind of boiled it down to a system involving really 3 steps: connecting, the first one, and supporting, and then directing. And the idea being connect, support, direct. The more that you connect, you build an authentic relationship with someone. The less when you really have to get something done, you can move right to the thing itself, right? You can issue a command. You can be at your worst that day, and they know that you actually genuinely care about them because you connected with them, you've supported them. And then the direction, the last part, that can be the quickest part. You see great coaches who can get something done with just a look or a gesture or one word, and maybe even seems like they're yelling at a player in that moment, but the player doesn't take it that way because they know that the coach really cares about them and supported them, connected with them. as a person, not just as a function. And this is something you'll see even I use an example in the book, but in boxing, if you have a minute and a timeout, you want to, if you're the coach in that situation, the right thing to do is not to fill the minute with advice. It's to connect and support the person, have them relax, tell them what they did well. The very last few seconds, right before they're about to go back in the ring, that's the moment where you give the direction. So it's fresh in their mind. And again, even though you might have a strong relationship with that person, you go back and you rebuild the work of connecting and supporting before telling someone what you want them to do. And it seems like a simple concept, and it's probably something we're all familiar with, even in casual conversations. We say, hey, Wayne, how was your weekend? Oh, good. How was the family? Hey, you did a great job last week on that, that studio live that you did. Oh, by the way, blah, blah, blah. Here's what I want you to do, or here's a thought I had for you, right? And that seems like a natural conversation. What we don't realize is in that conversation, there's actually a construct that we're subconsciously using of connecting, supporting, and then directing. And if you have a really great relationship, you can skip over the connecting and supporting, go right to the directing. How you talk to your business partners, your best friends, significant others. You don't need to do all that because you've already established the groundwork. And so anyway, that's what the book is about. It's kind of a bit of psychology, but it really just comes from the sporting world. And how do we bring that into the business world, into our everyday life? And to have a really simple system that we can all remember that's effective for coaches and athletes and to apply it to our lives.
Well, congratulations on it. I think it's a really good book, and I definitely recommend it as a read for any entrepreneur or anybody, who really wants to just be able to look. Relationships are everything, no matter if you're starting your own business, you're working for a company, or just in anything in life. It's just what it's all about. So I think it can be really helpful. So wondering, so you had Steph Curry with CoachUp. Shane Battier was wrote the foreword on your book. How did you connect with Shane and the whole, get him involved with you in the book?
I forget how we first met with Shane. We became friends. I don't remember the first time we met. He was active in the startup ecosystem. He was doing a bit of angel investing. He's working with the Heat now, but we met. We kind of hit it off. He's an incredibly bright, thoughtful person. I keep telling him to run for president. He won't do it. He also, if you remember, a lot of people remember from the Heat and winning championships, but he was the high school player of the year. He was the college player of the year, student athlete of the year. The Duke team that he was on with Boozer and Dunleavy and Williams and Duhon was one of the best teams I think that was ever assembled at the college level. And he was the leader of that team. And the coaching, obviously Coach K, I'm very familiar with, but his insight from that and from a lot of great coaches he's had in the league, playing with people like LeBron. But he just has, again, I think it's something where I learned so much from him. And his forward chapter, it's supposed to be like a forward chapter. And what he wrote, I thought was so much better than anything I had to say, that it ended up being like a quarter of the book or something. So if you feel inclined to check out the book, at least read his forward.
It's really good. I
didn't want to touch it. I don't want to take anything out. He did an incredible job. So it's like the longest forward of all time, deservedly so.
Well, it's great. And on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, a couple of our episodes prior to this, we had Reggie Love. We were talking about this a little earlier.
Yeah.
Reggie was a teammate of Shane's. And, he talks about, when he was, I think it was a freshman year or something, there was a rebound and he went up and he caught the ball and just Shane just happened to be there and he dunked it on him. And he said those were the only 2 points that he scored for the rest of the season. He just shut him down after that.
Shane, if you think about it, is the ultimate team guy, ultimate. And the role that he played on that Heat team, 3-and-D, right? He's the guy who'll take the charge. He's the guy who stands in the corner as like the best corner 3-point shooter in the league, which enables spaces the floor, right, for everyone else, defends multiple positions, hardworking, positive, role model, and anyway, he should run for president, but who better than him to talk about coaching and leadership and being a part of a team and helping the other players around you to get the most out of themselves. And his impact on the game of basketball, not to harp too much on Shane and basketball, But it also amazed me watching him play. And the casual basketball fan doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't need to touch the ball to have a top impact on the game. If he takes 5 corner threes and plays incredible defense, does everything that he brings in the locker room, and like, he can be the most impactful player on the floor for an NBA team, right? And I think that's a great analogy to think of in the startup or investing world. You don't have to be the person who finds the deal. You don't have to be the CEO of the company to add a ton of value. And so I always think about sort of 3&D and Shane Battier examples in business and I'll often talk to people about the role that they can play on a team in that way and how impactful it really is. And it's not smoke. It's true. Like, you can have a tremendous impact without having the ball in your hands, so to speak. There.
No doubt. I mean, that's what one of the things that's been amazing on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, hearing these types of things, telling stories of these types of individuals, your story, Shane's story. I mean, it's been incredible so far. And I really, thank you so much for joining us on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. And now, what I'd love to, get into a little bit, we've spent a lot of time on your career, but you've done so many things, and I love it. I think it's amazing. It's such a short amount of time, the number of things that you've done in the sports world, in the tech industry has been incredible. And now, as managing director of the TechStars Sports Accelerator, you have this opportunity to touch and work with so many more people all across the world in this industry, as we are all trying to build, the overall ecosystem within the sports tech world. And I love the work that you're doing at TechStars now. I know that you just launched your 2020 TechStars Sports Accelerator class, and are doing it virtually this year, at least for now. So how's it going so far?
Yeah, well, hey, and thank you for being a mentor with us. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I guess for those who don't know, TechStars is it's a worldwide network that helps founders to succeed. We operate an accelerator. We have a bunch of different TechStars accelerators. We have some that are in certain cities, like Boston and New York and Boulder, that are agnostic. Any kind of company can apply and go through. And then we have some vertically based accelerators, like a music one in LA, and we had a blockchain one, a fintech one. So I run the sports one. It's in Indianapolis because all of our partners are there. So the Indiana Pacers, Indianapolis Colts, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, IndyCar, the Next Level Fund, which is the fund of funds for the state of Indiana. The NCAA itself is headquartered there. Indiana Sports Corp is kind of the body that brings all things to Indianapolis. Indianapolis is a massive sports town. Governing bodies of sports are there. NFL Combine is there. NBA All-Star is there next year. It's the home of basketball in Indiana. Big Ten championship, Final Four. It's a massive sports town. And the leaders of the community in Indianapolis in sports want to come together with all the leading properties, kind of plant a flag in the ground and say, we want to make this the home for sports tech. For companies like CoachUp or Draft, ClassPass, a lot of people don't know, went through TechStars in New York City. If we had a dedicated sports program, I think a lot of these companies would have gone through it. So how do we bring these companies together, bring them to Indianapolis, either to go through the experience there or ultimately stay there? And that was the kind of, that's where our partners came together around it. For me, my passion for sports tech, having done CoachUp and Draft, but also real appreciation for TechStars. I put CoachUp through TechStars in 2012 in Boston. I was 25. I knew absolutely nothing, and they took a chance on me and on CoachUp, which I'll forever be grateful for. And so I wanted to, as my next thing after Draft, to kind of try to pay that forward a bit and have an impact on other founders maybe starting a company for the first time, and to also be a part of a new ecosystem. I did CoachUp in Boston, Draft in New York City. All the venture capital we raised was from the coasts, Massachusetts, New York, California, like I think all of it, which is, by the way, the vast majority of where all VC is from, those 3 states. So I wanted to be a part of helping to kind of bring up a new ecosystem and do it through sports, and I thought a way that really made sense, and we could add a lot of value to the founders. So that's what we're doing. We do 10 companies a year, small checks, $120,000 per company. We spend a lot of time with them during the program and after. It's a great shot from last year from our demo day. Man, you're killing it with the photos, Wayne.
Listen, I'd love to say it's all me, Jordan, but James back at the controls, he's amazing at this stuff. So I really appreciate all the work that he does.
Well, I guess a little, marketing message for what it's worth. If you have a company or you know a founder who's thinking of starting a company at all related to sports, I mean, fitness, esports, athleisure, fantasy sports, youth sports, really all over the place. Anything that kind of touches sports broadly. With some really interesting sports media companies this year. With companies from all around the world come, and so seed stage kind of companies. So we'd love to have them apply. If you're interested in mentoring, like Wayne, like you're doing, please reach out to me. We'd love to talk to you about that. And anyway, so that's what I'm up to now, and it's so different from running a company. We do one thing intensely every day. Here, I'm kind of going shallow and broad and giving a lot of advice and hoping for the best. But love working with the founders and trying to help them kind of realize their dreams and get a business off the ground.
Well, you and the team at TechStars Sports do a heck of a job, and it's really amazing. The work that you're doing to really spawn and build the sports tech ecosystem all over the world. And as you said, there are such incredible things that are now happening within the sports tech world, whether it's from just a pure technology side, whether it's from an esports perspective, fitness, sports betting. There's some amazing things that are happening right now. And the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, to build the next thing in these industries, the time is now. And you're right on time. You're right on time to do these things. And it's amazing to have Jordan Fliegel on our 76 Capital Leadership Series, who's done so many things in his career, including writing a book, and had 2 really great startups, now helping startups all over the world. And then there's this other thing that you're involved with, I understand as well. You led a group to buy a stake in a basketball team outside of the U.S. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, and the number one place to be now during COVID-19, New Zealand. And it was a fun thing, came together. New Zealand Breakers, one of the 9 teams in the Australian NBL. We're kind of the Toronto Raptors of the Australian League. The other 8 teams are in Australia, and there's a team in New Zealand. I think, like many other things in life, kind of randomly came about. I was in Australia with draft. I had a friend that was in New Zealand. I went to New Zealand. I saw this news break about a group of Americans, including Sean Marion, that were and Dan Katz from Barstool, that were buying New Zealand Breakers. And I was in New Zealand for the first time in my life, maybe the last time. And I just saw this, and I was like, this is some sort of message from above that, basketball guy in New Zealand's dream to own a pro team. And I reached out, and long story short, I committed to too much of a percentage of the team, probably I should have, and I ended up telling all my friends about it, and they all asked to come in with me. So we ended up having a bunch of us in the group for tiny stakes individually, but a lot of fun. We went to go see them play against the Phoenix Suns. We almost beat the Suns, which was really cool. And we had RJ Hampton on the team this past year, we'll see. Hopefully we'll do really well in the draft. Man, Wayne, killing it with the photos. Geez, this is scary. You've planted some bug. There's some new tech I'm not aware of that you've got on me. Anyway, RJ, he's a great player. Hopefully be go in the first half of the first round of the draft this year. But I think Australian basketball is coming up. I mean, some of the best players in the world now are Australian. I think maybe in competition with Canada for the number 2 spot in terms of the best basketball players in the world after the U.S. And certainly that's on the rise. So it's definitely an interesting league down there. It was just a lot of fun for me and my friends to do. So.
That's amazing. Well, it's not just we had a bug or anything out there. It's about having a really good team. And I think, as when you're building a startup, when you're building any company, it's about the people, right? And and we started our show, our 76 Capital Leadership Series, talking about what we do at 76 Capital, and how we're all about working with passionate and smart and nice people who want to do really big things. And that's what we have on our team at 76 Capital. And behind the scenes on all these shows is James Santor, my chief of staff, who is the one who, he's awesome. He's awesome with this, and really appreciate all of his hard work. And all of our teams work when we do these shows, why we do these things, because we, like you, want to build the community. We want to build out this overall ecosystem. We want to be involved with, the right kinds of people who are doing things, the next things in and around sports. And it's an incredible time to do that. I mean, TechStars wouldn't have gone out and created its own sports accelerator, but for the fact that there is this really big opportunity in sports today. And then we feel the same way at 76 Capital. So we're really excited to have you, on the show, be involved with all the things that you're doing. Love your thoughts around, how to be a leader, what it's all about to be an entrepreneur and do the right thing. It really speaks to a lot of the things that we care about and are very important to us at 76 Capital. So Jordan, I really appreciate all the things that you've done and for taking the time out. I know this is an important time for you, but to join us and be on the show, I think we could talk all day. I want to ask you lots of different questions. I mean, sports is coming back. The MLS is playing now, the guys are hopefully going to the bubble and hope they're going to be okay on the NBA perspective. Maybe real quick, could you share, do you have any little insight on what's going on?
I actually do, because I have a good friend. I won't name his name, but we played basketball together in Israel a long time ago. And he's in the bubble. He works for the NBA. He's in the bubble. So I'm hearing, some messaging from him about, what's going on down there. He's got a big role and a lot of responsibility in keeping everyone safe. So I'm optimistic. I would love to get cameras in there and have it be a reality TV. I think it'd be the most entertaining content ever to see what's actually going on in the hotel rooms and social distancing. And so I hope that someday that will come out in some way. I'd love to watch. But we'll see. It's a super hard time.
Do you have a bug on us? Because we are working on something like that right now. And
I hope so. Someone needs to film that content. I mean, it'll be the best reality TV show out there the year, right? I think that'd be more interesting than watching the games from many perspectives. But anyway, we'll see about sports and whether or not fans can go and what that looks like. And I know just with our partners in Indianapolis and thinking about Indy 500 coming up and NBA All-Star next year, and there's still a lot of uncertainty, right? And so everyone's cautious and trying to figure it out. I will say, though, from a sports tech perspective, I think it's actually an incredible time to be in sports tech, especially if you think about the space broadly. At-home fitness, Peloton, Mirror, Tonal, Fight Camp. We had a company, Ergata, last year. It's doing so well. At-home fitness is absolutely blowing up. Athleisure, people are at home doing this, right? And they want to be comfortable and wear comfortable clothes. Athleisure, I think, is doing really well. Esports, of course, I think is going to benefit tremendously from Corona, right? So there's a lot of sports media now with sports betting proliferating. The affiliate fees that you can get if you have, sports fans, you have access to them and engagement with them. They're worth so much more now than they were before, and we've seen that. You saw it with Barstool's exit, right? The Athletic, et cetera. So I think there's a lot of categories that are, even if you think of sports as one of the things like, well, no sports is going to happen and fans can't be there. And well, actually, there's a lot of categories that are doing really well. And even things like ticketing, fan engagement. Now the teams all have a moment in time where they're like, hey, we've got to come back. We've got to be even smarter. We can't just expect people to show up. We've got to not only comply with everything, but we got to be even more engaging and even smarter with all of our systems. And they have time now to do partnerships and integrate and to get ready for when sports does come back. So I think it's a really good time to be investing in sports, even though no sports is kind of going on, which is, the surface level doesn't make sense, but that's what we're seeing in the market. So anyway, I hope you guys are seeing that too, Wayne, and appreciate everything that you're doing in the sports tech space. And there's actually not a lot of us, I think, that are investing in sports tech companies, certainly early stage. So I really appreciate everything that you're doing, and hopefully we can do even more together.
Well, thank you, and absolutely, and I love all the work that you're doing now and you have done, and you're just your whole story, and just for taking the time and sharing all of that with us and our audience here on our 76 Capital Leadership Series. So again, Jordan, thank you so much, and best of luck to you and the whole TechStars Sports Accelerator team and all the companies. I look forward to meeting them, shortly. So thanks so much for joining us.
Great, thanks again, Wayne.
Absolutely. And you can find out, all the things that are happening around 76 Capital on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as subscribing to our 76 Capital YouTube channel for all of our leadership series. So this is Wayne Kimmel, your host for our 76 Capital Leadership Series. Again, Jordan Fliegel, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody have a great day.